Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the 4 types of parents when it comes to emotional intelligence. Today's video comes from the research of John Gottman, who, if you're not new on this channel, you've probably heard about many times before today. His research found that there are 4 types of parents when it comes to raising emotionally intelligent children. There are 3 types that you do not want to be, and there's 1 kind that you do want to be. So in this video, I'm going to share what those 4 types are and what the 5 steps are to become more like the parents who do raise emotionally intelligent children. And when you get to the 4 different types of parents, I would love to hear in the comments which kind your parents were and what effect you feel like it had on you. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my email newsletter at drannayudin.com so that you can be notified as soon as my second novel, A Song at Dead Man's Cove, is ready to release. It should be coming out this June 2025. I'm really excited for that. If you are a fan of gothic horror, I think you're going to enjoy it. Without further ado, let's talk about the 4 different types of parents. So like I said, there are 4 types of parents when it comes to dealing with children's emotions. The first kind is called dismissing. These parents tend to disregard, ignore, or trivialize their children's emotions. Components of their parenting include they laugh at their kids' emotions. They think that it's silly maybe because haha, little kids' emotions don't matter that much. They dismiss their concerns like when a kid is crying because they think there's a monster under the bed or they had a bad dream. Their parents don't take it seriously. They assume because children are irrational, their emotions shouldn't be taken seriously. They believe adults have more serious problems than children. So kids therefore have nothing to be upset about, which, as we know, is not true because all human beings have emotion and they're very important regardless of what's going on in that person's life. They treat their children's feelings as unimportant. They want those painful feelings to go away as soon as possible. They avoid their kids' emotions. They have a fear of being out of control emotionally, both for themselves and for their child. They believe painful emotions are bad and need to be stifled as soon as possible. They assume painful emotions means that something is wrong with the child when, again, like I keep saying, all emotions are natural to feel in all people, and they don't really problem solve with the child. They just kind of assume that the passage of time will heal everything. So the effect that this has on children is they learn that their feelings are not valid or appropriate, and they believe that there's something wrong with them for having very natural emotions that everyone has, whether or not they are aware of it. And they also end up struggling with emotion regulation because no one is really teaching them how to do it. The second kind of parent is disapproving parents, and these are also dismissing of their kids' emotions, but they take it a step further where they actually criticize or reprimand or punish emotion expression in their children. So it's a little bit more authoritarian. They set too many limits on the child's emotional experience. They punish the child for having difficult emotions, even if they're not misbehaving. Even if a child is just expressing anger in an appropriate way, the parent might punish them because it's not okay to ever feel angry towards me. They believe the painful emotions are a character flaw, like if a child feels hate, for instance, or jealousy towards their sibling. They kind of label that child. Like they say, Danny is an angry boy, or Jane has an anxiety problem. And they believe that painful emotions need to be controlled rather than felt and worked through. They believe painful emotions make people weak, that they need to just toughen up. And they seem to be more concerned with the child's obedience to authority than with their actual emotional well-being. And the effects of having this type of parent are similar to having a dismissing parent, except that in addition to that, children learn that emotional intimacy is very high risk, that if they share their emotions with another person, it can lead to humiliation, abandonment, and even punishment. Disapproving parents are a little bit more in line with authoritarian parenting, which tends to be low in warmth and high in demandingness. The third category of parents is the laissez-faire parents, and these accept their children's emotions. They typically empathize with them, do a good job of validating them, but they fail to offer guidance or set limits on their kids' behavior. So this one is more in line with permissive parenting, which is high in warmth but low in demandingness. These types of parents will freely accept any and all emotion expression in the child. They do offer comfort and empathy and validation, but little guidance from there. They don't really teach about emotions or help with problem solving, and they also don't set limits on emotion expression. They don't understand that just because a child has a particular emotion, it doesn't give them the right to act in whatever way they want. These types of parents believe that you can't really do anything about emotions except just ride them out, and they believe that emotions are just a matter of catharsis, that if they can just get the kid to, vomit out their feeling, then everything will be fine, when really they're not guiding them through it at all. So the effects of having a parent with this style is those children also don't learn to regulate their emotions, and they end up having trouble concentrating, forming friendships, getting along with their peers. Gottman doesn't explicitly state this, but I would imagine they also learn that anything goes emotionally. They can say and do whatever as long as they're having an emotional experience, and they're not going to experience any consequences for it. Now, the fourth type of parent, and the kind that you do want to be, is what Gottman calls emotion coaches. These are parents who don't object to their children's displays of emotions, including less convenient emotions like anger and sadness. They do validate and empathize their children's emotions. They're aware of their own emotions as parents. They teach their kids strategies for dealing with their emotions, but they are also not trying to fix their problems for them, and they are setting limits as well. They accept their painful emotions as a fact of life, but they use those moments as a bonding opportunity and a teaching opportunity. And if they manage to bring themselves closer to the child as a result of these difficult experiences, then the child's going to be more likely to not misbehave in the future, because ultimately they have that strong relationship with the parent and they're not going to want to disappoint them. These parents also model emotional intelligence themselves. For example, they know how to repair a rupture after they get upset with their children, or they lash out, or they make a mistake. They know how to take accountability. They show what it looks like to actually process through an emotion and problem solve it. They take it a step further than laissez-faire parents by actually explaining to the child that your emotion is totally valid, but this particular way of expressing yourself is not appropriate, or this particular behavior is not acceptable. This is much more in line with authoritative parenting, which is high in warmth and demandingness. So the outcomes of children who have this type of parent is they become emotionally intelligent, they have better emotion regulation skills, they can self-soothe, higher self-esteem, fewer infections, meaning presumably better immunity, maybe because they're not experiencing that chronic buildup of stress that comes from their parent not guiding them through emotion regulation. They're in better physical health, they're better at focusing their attention, they have a more developed sense of empathy, better relationships with their peers, better academic performance, fewer behavior problems, they're less prone to acts of violence, they have fewer markers of stress, what's called a high vagal tone, meaning their vagus nerve, which counteracts when they're in fight or flight, is functioning optimally, and they're more resilient in the face of adversity, like when their parents end up divorcing. All four of these styles, Gottman says, exist across cultures, no matter the cultural norms of emotion expression. Everybody has feelings, right? Dads tend to have more of an extreme effect on their kids' emotional intelligence development than moms do, which can be a problem because men tend to be more emotionally closed off than women. So what are the 5 steps of being an emotion coach? How can you coach someone through their emotions? Step number 1 is to become aware of the child's emotion. This requires the adult actually understanding emotions, and it requires empathy. Putting yourself in your child's shoes, thinking, what might they be thinking? What might I think if I were them? It may also require sometimes taking a look at the bigger picture. Like if a child seems unreasonably upset over something small, maybe thinking about, oh, I think yesterday they had a bad day at school. It might be that they're actually upset about something else right now. Step number 2 is recognize the emotion as an opportunity for intimacy and teaching. Approach the emotion not by wanting to get rid of it, or wanting to distract the child, or wanting to laugh at it, or punish the child, but rather as an opportunity for the two of you to get closer together and for you to instill some wisdom in the child. Number 3, listen empathically and provide validation. Truly try to imagine what the child might be thinking and feeling, and try to reflect back what they're feeling non-judgmentally. And this is not the point to argue about the facts. Don't jump into problem solving right away either. Really make sure that your child truly feels heard, that they have a name for what they're feeling, that they feel like you hear them out before you start to de-escalate the emotion. But once that happens, once you feel like, okay, yeah, the child definitely feels like I've listened to them, like I've validated them, I've really struck a chord with what they're feeling. Then you move on to step number 4, which is helping the child find the words to label their emotions. And step number 5, which is set limits and explore strategies to solve the problem at hand. Setting limits means explaining that not all types of emotion expression, not all behaviors are okay. All emotions are okay, but not all forms of emotion expression are. For instance, you might say it's not okay to hit things when we're upset, but clarify that it's the misbehavior that's the problem, not the emotion. If necessary, give some natural consequences, like if the child continues to hit the object that they're hitting, then remove the object from them. Help the child identify their goals in the situation instead of just assuming, oh, this is my goal in the situation, so I'm gonna guide them towards that. Really ask them, like, what are you hoping? Or like, what do you think would help make you feel better? And then try to brainstorm possible solutions together. But do let them come up with them on their own. Don't just say like, oh, let's try this and this and that. No, let the child come up with what they think are different options, because that's going to instill more independence in them and more ability to problem solve on their own when they're an adult. Then evaluate the proposed solutions together, really go through them together, think about what are the different pros and cons of each of them, and help the child pick a solution. And you can definitely offer guidance at this stage, like saying how you handled a similar situation when you were their age, what lessons you learned from it, how you overcame that painful emotion, so on and so forth. So the 5 steps of emotion coaching are: become aware of your child's emotion, recognize the emotion as an opportunity for intimacy and teaching, listen empathetically, provide validation, help the child find the words to label their emotion, and set limits and explore strategies to solve the problem at hand. I hope that this was interesting. Again, I'm really curious what types of parents you guys had. So pop that in the comments down below, and I'll see you soon.